I'm Jess.
And I'm Jen. We're just two run-of-the-mill casting directors looking to have a little fun while tearing down the curtain on casting, the process, and how the sausage gets made.
So many misconceptions have come from outside sources, so we're here to clear the air and make sure everyone gets a full picture of all that goes into casting your favorite TV shows and films. All the while, we'll be drinking some amazing cocktails and spilling the tea on some of the most outrageous stories we've come across in our careers.
Maybe we'll even bring on a few exciting guests along the way.
Cheers!
Cheers.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is episode 2 that we are in the same time zone, and we're very excited. Welcome back to Tipsy Casting. I'm Jess, and this is my co-host, Jen. Thank you all for joining us again this week. We are excited to welcome actor, stunt coordinator, and director Sam Hargrave to Tipsy Casting.
Sam Hargrave has established himself as a filmmaker of note, known for deftly incorporating a blend of unique, intuitive, and character-driven action into both his work in film and television. Sam made his featured directorial debut with the edge-of-your-seat thriller Extraction, produced by the Russo Brothers and written by Joe Russo. Netflix released the film globally in April 2020, and it ranks as one of the top 10 most watched movies ever for the streamer. It stars Chris Hemsworth.
In June of 2023, Netflix released the sequel to the worldwide blockbuster action hit, with Sam helming as the director and now producer. Upcoming, Sam is set to direct Idris Elba in the Warner Brothers high-octane action film Stay Frosty, and he will also produce with Dark Horse Entertainment. Sam will also direct the pilot episode and executive produce the upcoming Apple TV original drama series The Last Frontier, starring Jason Clarke.
Sam's background as an award-winning stuntman, stunt coordinator, second unit director, and actor has deeply informed his filmmaking. Sam has served as stunt coordinator on Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War, Suicide Squad, Captain America Civil War, The Hunger Games, Mockingjay Part 1 and 2, among others.
Now grab a cocktail
Or a mocktail.
and enjoy. Hi, Sam. Welcome to Tipsy Casting. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. This is the weirdest part, I think, of the transition of not being on air and then actually doing the intro.
Yeah.
But we're very excited. I think we are starting a series called, the casting relationships with directors. And so,
great.
You've had such an incredible journey, and we're excited to dive in from your time as an actor and stunt coordinator, stuntman, and now director. So before we start, what are you drinking?
Today I'm drinking a watermelon session ale from the Montauk Brewing Company. So I'm here on Long Island. My wife is from Long Island, New York, and there's a local brewery that does this different, ales, and this is one that I'm having today.
It sounds very summery, refreshing. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, this is actually my first time trying this version. My wife just brought it back from the store, and I'm gonna give it a try. So whenever y'all start into it, I'll crack this puppy up, and we'll get going.
Let's dive
we have
in
ours
right now.
poured. We're ready. We're always ready.
then,
you go for it.
Cue that
Great
amazing sound.
Yeah.
Pour it.
Chris.
There you go. Into the best mug ever.
No, I love it.
In case you guys got some video, there you go.
We did.
Yes,
we will definitely.
Great. And Jess, what are you drinking?
I am drinking, I also went summery refreshing vodka with the Fever Tree sparkling pink grapefruit.
Ooh.
It is I'm a big grapefruit person, so anything that can fake as a Paloma, I'm in, with a little bit of lime.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
I have leftover almond champagne.
Ooh.
It's like the rest of the bottle because Sam, I know you don't know this, but it was my birthday last week, and then it was one of my really good friends' birthday this weekend. So we have so much champagne. I was like, I'm going to keep drinking it till it's gone.
Well, congratulations. And yes, keep drinking it till it's gone. Waste not a single drop.
Yes. I don't waste alcohol.
Good.
Amazing. Well, tell us about you and your journey. We're super jazzed to get because you have a very unique perspective and you've worn so many different hats over the years. So how did you get started? What was the first profession that you checked off your list here?
Yeah. Well, I started as a stuntman back in 2005 professionally, right? Getting paid and joining the Screen Actors Guild and all that stuff. Before that, I did live shows in North Carolina at a Western theme park as an actor. So I did a lot of acting. I did theater at university at UNC Chapel Hill while pursuing a film degree with directing, writing, editing, all that stuff. So I had, from the casting side of things, I did get in front of the camera a lot. I wanted to be the white Jackie Chan, basically.
Yeah.
And, I got to do a version of that. I've done a number of, smaller independent productions as an actor, and all while doing stunts professionally in the Hollywood realm. And that was the start. It was 2005. It was actually, I doubled for Jensen Ackles from Supernatural. Yeah. Oh, the women love that. It's such a heartthrob. Still, like he's the man.
I remember watching the pilot of Supernatural literally. I moved into my dorm in college and I watched that pilot, and so I feel like I go way back.
You would have seen me diving off a bridge, doing some fight stuff. There was I was in the burning building, so I was in that pilot.
How did you? My question: how did you discover stunts for yourself? Like, were you super? I mean, I'm assuming you were super active growing up and getting into the space.
Yeah, that story goes way back. I mean, there's actually footage somewhere on some VHS tapes that my mom has. I don't know where they are. I'm somewhere at her house, I imagine. But I was 4 years old and had my cowboy hat and my boots on and my Lone Ranger mask, and I'd roll down this big hill. I'd look at the camera, and I guess it was my mom recording, and I'd smile, and then I'd run back up to the top, and I'd fall down again. Because of the reruns of those TV shows that my granddad would record for us and send for me, my sister, and my brother. There were three of us, and we would watch them, just like candy. It was couldn't get enough of Lone Ranger, Zorro, Roy Rogers, and all of those shows, had great action sequences for that time period. And it was something that really inspired me as a kid. And then I wanted to be a cowboy, at heart. I wanted to be Roy Rogers or Gene Autry or the Lone Ranger or Zorro. He probably would have been my favorite. It was the Western version of Batman. It was amazing. And so, inspired by all that stuff, I just started doing a lot of what I saw on television or these reruns of television. And to the point where my mother had to learn to edit between two VCRs to remove the more violent sequences so I wouldn't end up hurting my brother. Because I would do anything I saw on TV. Wow. If they jumped out of a window, I was up on the roof jumping off. And if if they took a rock and smashed through the window to get a better vantage, I was smashing rocks through windows.
So you're the reason why they say don't try this at home, kids. That's it.
I'm the poster child for that saying. Yes.
I love that.
Because I tried everything at home. Everything I saw, I was going to go and do it. Was very influenced by film and television. And that was, from a very early age. And then it continued once I started in martial arts at around 13 or 14. And I started consuming Jackie Chan movies and Jet Li and Bruce Lee and Sammo Hung and, Van Damme and Seagal, all the kind of Hong Kong and then Western versions of that were in the time period I grew up loving. I consumed it voraciously, and I couldn't get enough, and I would all just copy what I saw. And so I wanted to do those fight scenes. A lot of the Jackie Chan action where those guys do the crazy spins and falls. I was trying to do that because I was like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it. And so that was the start. That kind of planted the seed of stunts in my mind. And then it was at university where, all of these projects that we were making ended up being action related, and I having a little, more skill and also just I don't want to say gumption, but it was just I would do the crazy things that I wanted to see done, and I had a hard time asking my friends to do it because they might get hurt. Right. And so I got good at it, and then traveled across the country to do it for real.
Yeah. So graduating, because university I don't think teaches you how to be a stunt person. You kind of learn the more comprehensive film degree type thing. So how did you take that and then translate that and be like, I'm going to focus solely on stunts rather than going the producing or directing route straight out?
Well, interestingly, school kind of provided that for me because of what I was doing with my friends to make the movies. The production side, the shooting, the cutting, the writing, all that stuff. Yes, we learned in class. However, that was part of it. Then we had to go do it. And rather than finding other actors or stuntmen, because that didn't really exist in North Carolina back at that time, we ended up becoming the stuntmen. And so we did get practice because we'd watch, and just a lot of what we did was replicate what we saw. Again, just right back to me as 4 years old.
Yeah.
We'd see it and we'd copy it and we'd do it. And because it was, it was different enough, it's like still like an artist, right? Like you do it once and it's plagiarism. You could do it over and over again and it's like genius. So it was just a bunch of white kids, and we had some, black friends in our school. It was awesome. We had a really unique group who were doing these things that were inspired by Hong Kong cinema, and us doing it then became this phenomenon in that area. But it had been done the exact same way, in Hong Kong for many, many years. So we were just copying the people that we loved, and it gave us a lot of practice and a lot of practical skills that as soon as I went to Los Angeles, I assumed that it was going to be some completely different approach to making movies. Hollywood was special. It was like this, mecca of filmmakers. When we got there, I was like, it's a lot of the same stuff we were doing. They just have more money, more time, and there's more people standing around doing nothing on set. And so it was really confidence boosting, actually, to see like a lot of what we had been practicing translated to being a stuntman in Hollywood. So the learning curve was very steep, but it was something that we were prepared for. And I say we, it was my friend Thayer Harris and I, who I came out first and he joined me later because he was off, literally joined the circus, and he came later. Yeah, we were quite the dynamic duo growing up. Wow. There's a whole movie that could be made about us and all our antics. But anyways, yeah, so I did get some kind of non-specific practice that translated directly to being a stuntman in Hollywood.
That's amazing. So was there some point that you were like, okay, I've done this enough, now I feel comfortable making that jump? Or did somebody push you into the director route? Or how did that transpire?
From stuntman to directing?
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is I was actually pushed into the stuntman route. My plan was, and again, I blame Thayer Harris, or thank him. I planned on, I didn't really, so funny how weird your mindset is when you're 20, 21 years old. I saw this, what I had done, which was learning how to make movies, as what I then would do. I would make movies. Where, how, I didn't even think that far ahead, but I knew how to write, was learning how to write and direct and, produce and act in and do stunts and edit. And I was going to do that and make movies. And I was going to be Steven Spielberg and Jackie Chan and, Tom Cruise all in one. And no one, I didn't know any better. Thayer, my buddy, was like, you actually fall down on your head pretty good. There is a career path for just that if you wanted to focus on that. And I was like, what? What do you mean? He's like, a stunt man. I'm like, yeah, okay. And how do we make the movies? He said, well, you get to work on the big movies and, make money as that. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I was hell bent on just making movies. And he was like, hey, you can actually do this part of it. And so when I again, just very quickly shifted, I was like, great, I'm going to do that. All the while keeping the goal of directing movies and telling stories in the forefront of my mind, or at least the side of my mind. Yeah. So while I was moving very quickly forward in stunts, we would do these short films on the side, keep writing, keep trying to win on set, be observing what were the directors doing, what lenses were they using, why were they making these choices, and always not just there to do the stunts and go home. It was there to use that as a foot into the door of learning all that there is to know about making movies on that level. So that it was my entry point into the Hollywood world.
I love that. I think you never hear about that. It always seems like this overnight success of, he just fell into directing, or, but this was always the end game.
Yeah. And if you look at there again, video footage, this stuff someday I'll find it and put it on the internet, but my mom has them. Hopefully she still has them. I remember seeing them at some point. I'll have to ask her after this podcast.
Yeah.
That I was directing, little short movies, not to the extent that Spielberg was. Like that was a very dedicated human in just specifically directing. I was at probably 10 or 11 years old. I was directing, and I was working with my brother was younger, my sister's older. So I'd be like, all right, Jazz, sister, you're on the camera, and Dan, you're going to be the good guy. I'll be the bad guy, just so they would play with me. Like that was, I learned how to, kind of work the system.
Yeah.
Because if I found early, if you say like, well, I'm going to be the hero, nobody wants to play, like no one wants to play with you. And you're like, well, hey, how about you be the good guy? And you get to win and you get like all the glory, and then I'll be the bad guy and I'll make you look good. And they're like, oh, okay. And so then I get to be the bad guy, get beaten up at 10 years old, right? I'm learning this and using Louis L'Amour books. That he's a great American author. I don't know if you're familiar with him. If not, look him up. Great books. Yeah. He's written hundreds of stories about the American West. Always a great fight scene, fist fight, and always a great gunfight. And so I would take that as our script, and we would act out these little fights. And I was directed before I even knew what the heck we were doing. I was just copying and entertaining my imagination, but I was directing, and that just kept going. And then we went to school for it. And so, yeah, the overnight success, directing a movie when you're like 35, 36 years old with Extraction that was 20 years in the making. So it's really with most people, it seems like, oh, this overnightness of it is just people recognizing your abilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All that other time was spent working hard, diligently performing, all of the skills that you need to perform at that level.
Yeah. Very important question. Did either of your siblings end up in the industry?
Mm-hmm. Yes, actually. Now I'm glad I can say this officially. My entire family, my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, and I have all been in movies. Now, none of us like my dad's a lawyer. My mom was a teacher. None of us were, I was going to be either a cowboy, a basketball player, or a psychologist. All of which, okay. I've either gotten to play mm-hmm. or have used those skills like psychology in directing and working with people and communicating. But I was the first one to kind of leave and do stunts. However, before we even left North Carolina, we did a feature film. My good friend Thayer and I, with another friend, Steve Milligan, we all kind of, wrote and directed this movie by committee, basically. But we did the feature, and my dad's in it as one of the main villains. My mom is in it as she's like the salesperson for this rental car place. And then my sister is in that movie as the person I break up with in the beginning of the show. Hilariously. And then my brother was actually the latest one to the party. However, he's the one who has taken it and has a blossoming career as a stuntman, stunt coordinator, and now second unit director. Like he's legit. If you go to Atlanta, Georgia, or when I do, people go, "Oh, you're Daniel Hargrave's brother," and I go, "Yes." He's also my brother, and I was out there first, but he's taken it and run with it. So he's officially in the business.
Yeah.
Everyone else has just kind of dipped a toe in here and there.
Yeah. Would you ever put them in one of your future films now? Like now that you're...
I'd love to. I would love to. If I can find the way. The hard part is that shows that I've shot are just all over the world and like the hardest places to get to. And when I shoot one, in the States, yes, I will try. I won't force the casting choice, but I will definitely open up the casting call to my family for sure.
Oh, that's so fun. What a bonding way to have a family experience.
I know, right?
I feel like it goes one of two ways. It's either the most wonderful thing that bonds everybody or it just implodes. One of those two things.
I've been very fortunate. We've all been able to bond over it and have fond memories of working together in movies.
That's wonderful.
Well, I think it's cool too, because I think it's something you can like throw back to, like your grandchildren will watch it one day and you'll be like, that's your great grand, like that kind of stuff is, I've gotten to be in 2 of my films.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I didn't quite do it willingly because I hate being on camera and I hate being the center of attention. But like the 2 times they were like one time they were just desperate. They're like, we need somebody to fit into this costume and you can, and we need it done. And then the second time it was more of just like, it was a really fun scene, really fun directors, and like, come on, Jen, you can do it. And then, but now I go back and I'm just like, that's going to be really cool one day just to have like in my back pocket to just, not be an actress by any means, but I'm like, that's just gonna be cool, one of those nice little memory things.
Yeah, like it, you have the if if you approach it with the right kind of mindset, and I don't want to say right as in anything that you've done is wrong, but right meaning you're like, this idea that, I'm going to use this.
Yeah, we
Oh,
lost
wait,
you
you
for a
went
second.
away. You went away.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Am I back?
You're back,
Yes.
though.
Okay. Okay, good. I don't know what happened there. Sorry.
You were saying it was a really cool way, and then you cut out.
Okay. I think it's a really cool way for, when approached with the right mindset, it's a really cool way to kind of record for posterity. If you mean, like you said, having that approach rather than saying like, I'm embarrassed, I don't like being on camera, you kind of change the narrative and say, maybe I am, and this will be a great memory to have for not only me, but for like my family or my friends. We can look back and have a laugh, or we can look back and say, oh man, remember when? And I think a lot of it, it's just perspective. So I'm glad that you took that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, as far as the casting process goes, because you have a very unique perspective coming from the action, the stunt space.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like for you, shifting gears into the first Extraction and the casting process? Like, what were you? I mean, your experience in psychology. Like, what was what were you looking for through that process?
Yeah. Well, for me, if we talk specifically about Extraction, the first film, we were really committed to authenticity. And rather than because the story took place in Dhaka, Bangladesh, and then India, rather than having American actors or British actors, and do an accent and go with the names, we as in myself and AGBO, like the production company, and even Netflix, we were very intent upon truthfulness in that space, and having kind of a spoken language film where it was just truthful to if you were in that space, how would people talk? Let's be honest and not say, oh, well, let's just use an accent and make sure it's a face that we know. And so we just started a very wide, once we obviously had Chris Hemsworth, that wasn't really casting, that was kind of an offer because he's a star. But then once we had that, it was like, all right, let's cast around him in the most authentic way possible. So we just started sending out, we had a great casting team in India and in Bangladesh, and we just started sending out, and really scoured, the country to find that kid, Ovi Mahajan, and we ended up with a kid named Rudy, who
he's great.
And it was just, thank you. I appreciate that. And that's a testament, I think, to his ability to be present and truthful. And that was what we were looking for. It's like, you know what, I'd rather, because I think as a director, my biggest job or most important job is getting at the truth of any scene, even if it's a fantastical situation, like a narrative fiction story. What's the truth of human behavior in that moment? And let's try to get at it. And that is a much easier process with strong casting. And so I also wanted to make sure, just process wise, that it wasn't just, okay, let's have one read and then that's the person. Because people, it's like, one Zoom interview or one thing, and you have that happen and you go, oh, they're amazing. And you get on set and you're like, this is very different than, So it was like, we had one, okay, great. That was a good read. Now let's like mix it up. Let's try another scene. Let's try a different scenario. Like I want to have them do it, different casting place, like do it from your house or somewhere different. And
So you did the whole casting process virtually?
We did.
For those.
We did. Wow. It was all they sent in tapes. And so, because it was like, it didn't seem to be the best use of time to fly to India for reads, because there were so many tapes coming in. We would get, there were thousands of submissions that I didn't wade through all. I would get like the ones that the casting team would go through and say, hey, these are our top 10 or whatever. And then we'd narrow it down. And once we got to that final group, it was like, let's see them try a different scene. Let's try it a different way. I would get on with them and ask for certain things to change things here and there so that I could see what their range was. What would it be like working with them on set? Because that's another big thing. It's not just what they initially bring to the character. Can they make adjustments and change the performance based on what you as the director need for the truth of that moment? And so, when we found Rudy, he was just so present and so able to adapt and change and just willing to learn. It was amazing. And then, we did find Randeep Huda, as who played Saju, who was just incredible. He's like
phenomenal.
he's like the Daniel Day-Lewis of India. That's actually what they call him, because you should see, if you look him up, Google search Randeep Huda, and his list of credits and what he does is change his body and his accent, and his look and his performance. It's incredible, his body of work. And he just directed.
I mean, after I watched the first one, I had a moment where I was like, "Who is this guy?" You have to like. He is so charismatic and so relatable in a different way that you quite don't expect. Yep. He was a find for sure. And I think, and as far as Rudy, I think that search is so taxing for kids.
So hard
to be able to find that magic, like lightning in a bottle.
Yep.
When they can just really acclimate to whatever scenario that you're looking for. It's incredible when you find it.
It was so liberating, because then you have the weight is kind of lifted, where you're like, okay, now I know we can kind of get to work and not have to be concerned about like, oh my God, how are we going to get this scene with these two people? Am I going to have to how am I going to cobble this together? You go, oh no, this kid can really bring the goods. And he was so good. I mean, the whole cast, I could go on and on about every single person we cast, but process wise, it was done remotely. And what I was searching for was truthfulness, a willingness to be vulnerable, and a willingness or an ability to adapt to direction.
That's amazing. So how did you find your casting director there then?
If you don't mind me asking? No, not at all.
That's very unique.
Yeah. Well, we went through Sarah Finn casting for the US portion, and so she was overseeing all of it, and she has contacts. She's been doing it so long. She has, and through all the Marvel movies and Marvel places, she's cast all over the world. So she had very extensive reach in the casting world. So she found our local casting directors, and we worked very closely with them.
That's great. And what have you found? I mean, I don't know what everything is on a standstill right now, but what have you found? Because it's obviously the Sarah Finn aspect of it came through AGBO, because they worked with her for so many years. But as you develop your relationships, as you look for new, like, fresh faces in the casting space, like, what are you looking for in the future of trying to find your relationships and that sort of thing?
My relationships with casting directors?
Yeah. I mean, as you move forward as a director.
Yeah. Well, as a director, what I'm looking for in a casting director is someone who understands the project that we're trying to make, who doesn't have their own personal agenda and pushing, their relationships that previously exist on to me. Same thing with like an agency relationship is the thing that is a little bit taxing at times, is you get people who are like, well, here's a list of people I think are right for it. You're like, that's your client list. It's like, I get it. There's a lot more people out there than that. I want the best person. I don't care where they are from, who represents them. I don't care. Find me the best, most truthful person. So the same with a casting director. I'm looking for someone willing to step outside of their comfort zone in search of the truth, and somebody who just a lot of it is a sensibility that matches with my own. And it's, it's to sit down and have a conversation. And I'd known Sarah from the Marvel process, because I've done so many Marvel movies, and she's been a part of a lot of them. And it just seeing how she worked, I'd been in on a lot of the castings. Like I was in on, like, when we found, I don't know, I could say we because I was there, but I wasn't making the choices. But Tom Holland, when we cast him for Spider-Man, like I was there when we had like the top 3. I was there on all those auditions. I was there because they had to do some physical stuff, and I was a stunt coordinator. So I was there when we were finding Spider-Man. So seeing what they were looking for and how they interacted with the actors. She's just got a great sensibility. So something like that, where you're willing to take chances. You have a strong instinct. I think a lot of it has to be felt, because there's no playbook. There's no numbering system.
I think it's an intuition based profession. I think it's a lot of it is there's history to it. Obviously, we're seeing actors for many years before maybe someone like you sees them. Yep. And so I think that's like understanding for us is knowing their growth, knowing their timeline and all the work that they've put into it, and the little jobs, or even the jobs that they didn't get. Yep. And, the incredible auditions that we have in our database, that is, that's its own history sort of thing. You know, it's a beautiful thing.
And that's huge. Is connections is huge because like you said, that extensive network and the intuition. And again, it's that overnight success, or that I have this intuition. Like that intuition comes from experience. It's not some people just have it. It's your first time, and you could be right. People like yourselves have been doing it long enough to you develop this intuition. You've seen the growth, and you've seen people fail. You've seen like what is it that needed to happen to succeed in this part, and so you can kind of coach people along, and you just have a very unique perspective on performance as it's attached to art and commerce. Because you can be like, what are they looking for? And you're like, this person, she's so talented. And yet I get that, she doesn't have the Disney princess look. Yet here comes this role. It's the perfect thing. We're doing X, Y, Z, whatever that is. I'm going to put her forward because I know my intuition is that she's perfect for this part. And that comes from having seen all the work she puts in. So I think, you touched on a very important aspect of the casting process, which is having people. And I said like willingness to take chances. I think that's a lot of it too, is speaking your truth, which is you're basically representing these people and giving them chances, because you've seen their progress, you've seen their growth. Having someone like you to stand up for them and give them shots as actors, that's a huge thing, huge person to have in your corner. So for actors out there, it's relationships with casting directors is very important. Very important.
Yes. Yeah. We've had a couple conversations on the podcast prior about how I kind of got into an argument with somebody recently. I can't remember who. They were like convinced that AI is going to take our jobs. And I was like, they can take it to a certain extent. If you're choosing between Brad Pitt and Matt Damon, sure, you can take, make a list out of those people. But I was like, but you'll never take away the instinct of casting. Because I was like, there's so many times we read people and you're just like, ooh, that guy's so good. Or this girl's just like got this turn that's amazing. And they may not get it, but then we remember them for years. And then they end up being huge stars. And I was like, I just don't think AI can take that away. Maybe I'm crazy, but I really don't believe
not
so.
Yet. There's certain things that and again, once this happens, we're all screwed. But until AI is able, and I'm not putting it past it. I mean, I probably give us as a species 10, maybe 15 years, but until AI is able to have that level of like emotional intelligence, and intuition, then it can't replace what you do. It can't really replace what I do. The technical side, the A, B, C, the mathematical side of things, sure. Creating lists of people, great. Quickly choosing like a bunch of background people, you're like, I want diversity. Bam, they can do that quickly. But finding that thing that is the perfect fit, but sometimes you're playing opposites. You're like, this person's perfect because she's not perfect. That's exactly why she, is perfect for this role. Or like this guy, you can't cast him. Why? He's a movie star. Exactly. So sometimes
it'd be distracting.
Exactly. Sometimes it's not by the numbers. So at this stage, that's like the mathematical, logical, reasoning AI can run circles around humans. But when it comes to that deeper human emotional intelligence, they're not there yet. And my God, when they do, we're all done for.
It's past our prime.
Hopefully, yeah. Well, and what's so crazy? That's and just a quick aside, that's such a, and I've said the same thing, but it's and I'm not bagging on your response, but it's such a human response. But so long as I don't have to deal with it, you're like, you know what? Good luck, next generation. Godspeed. You'll be fine.
There's so much of that.
You know what I mean? It's such a human response. And I've said the same thing. Like, whew, so long as I'm done directing movies before shit hits the fan.
Well, I think that's the scariest part of it. It's like I look at my nephews and I'm like, oh my God, they have so much shit to deal with. It's going to be a disaster. And I'm so sorry.
Right.
But what do I do?
And I'm looking at my 8-month-old daughter and I'm like, I cannot even imagine when you're my age, like when 40 years go by, what is the world going to look like? Are we even going to be here? It's because of the exponential rate of growth from, go back 40 years from where we've gotten to now. It has ramped in the last 20 years. It's ramped up like this. The curve is just like, I think we're going to be just completely vertical by the time, that she's talking. Well, it's going to be like, oh my God.
It's crazy to think back because I think we're all about the same age. I don't really know, but it's like we went through like the first recession and writer's strike. then we're like just making out of there, and then we like have all this like shift in like technology to streamers that then we have to like get on board with, and then we get the pandemic, and now we have our second strike, and I'm like, I'm just waiting for the time where we have like 3 solid years of just like work.
I know, right? It's so, but I guess that's the thing that, you know, if you're counting rings on a tree, or if you're like, it's another stripe for the tiger, as they like to say. It's like these kinds of things build resilience. And I'm not arguing with you. I would love 3 straight years of, I don't even know what normal is anymore, but like consistency at least.
Yeah, that's a great word to use. Consistency. That's all we need.
And I think the best thing that I've ever seen, there's a GIF on Instagram that it's, because I'll be 36 this year, and it's this idea that our generation has never, like, they don't have the luxury of a midlife crisis because we've always been in crisis.
That's an interesting point of view.
It feels right, honestly, that sort of like panic that we're always like, can we survive this?
Well, and thinking of what that does to the, like, psychologically, and I'm not going to try to get too deep here or like self-helpy, but what that, you know, it being exteriorly in a constant state of pressure and or crisis, you know, that we as humans, as like as a species, like that don't really know the difference between that kind of crisis and, oh God, there's a lion waiting for us behind the bush. So that level of stress, like those stress hormones that are just like constantly, that's like, I think, leading to a lot of the issues, like mental health issues, depression, you know, like and so we as a generation have a unique kind of, you know, place in history of dealing with so many, to your point, stressful, inconsistent, crisis level things. That, I'm not sure how much further we could push it. I mean, hey, who knows? Maybe that is the next, AI is the next evolution, where you don't have to have so many, like, you know, stressful, emotional problems. You're like, you know what? We're just all going to put computer chips in our brains so we don't have to worry about that part of it.
What is the movie? Is it WALL-E, where they all are just on couches and they're
WALL-E.
shuffling around?
Yeah. That's a wild.
That'll be the next step.
Yeah. Gosh, I hope not. I mean, you know, it'll be what it'll be, but that's like looking too far into the future makes me stressed out.
Yeah. Well, especially with the baby, that is always like mortality looking you in the face there.
It's mortality, and it grounds you, right? Like, it just having a little one, just you look at her face, it just immediately brings you back to the present. It's such a great grounding force in life. Being a dad's a pretty awesome thing. That was a very sudden. It is first one. Yeah. Very sudden change of topic, but being a new dad is life changing. Life changing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an important topic shift because I feel like balance is a conversation that we should be having more.
Yeah. You know, I totally agree. And there's a great phrase that I've heard. I'm big on reading books. I do a lot of audiobooks and podcasts and stuff. But there's a phrase that I heard of, you know, everyone's searching for the work-life balance, as if once you find that balancing point, you're done. Whereas that it's actually work-life balancing. It's a constant back and forth. Like you're always riding that line. You're never going to find that perfect, you know, point of equilibrium where it's perfect. I am balanced, and that's for the end of time. I will now be balanced. It's balancing. You're on it. It's like a tightrope. You're constantly shifting and moving until you get across. You will never be like, you know, fully balanced, but that's part of staying in balance, is that act of this way, a little bit that way, a little bit that way. To find it, you have to stay in motion.
I think it's also really challenging because this is my own personal experience of, you know, it is very easy as industry professionals to tie your value to your success, right? So I think that's a big impact on the balance, but also, we talked about this a number of times on the podcast, that for us, I mean, for most people, I'll just say, but like it's very hyper, or I think we're very hyper aware of it in the industry, that like the goalpost is always moving.
Yes.
There is no we've climbed the ladder, and we're at the top of the ladder. There's no ladder in this. And we always move. Like, I don't know any other industry that you make less in one project than you did than the other, you know, that we just finished. Yep. So like that financial connection, the goalpost moving, like all of these things, it doesn't allow you to just say, I'm here and I'm ready to go. You know, it is that balancing for sure.
It's such a huge thing, and such a great point for everyone who's listening to this to kind of think about, because I know with my wife, with being especially a mom, and then being in the industry, like that struggle, that kind of, because to your point, we, especially in this industry, I think just as human beings, but especially in the film industry, equate self-worth with achievement. And then, as a mother, like my wife's going through it, who now the focus has shifted because she was in the business as well. She was the stunt double for Golshifta Farahani on the second Extraction. Did an amazing job. Was a commercial actor for many years. She's amazing. Rachel McDermott. But she, as a mom, like the focus has shifted, and I'm watching and trying to be supportive with that struggle of now, like that thing that I did that gave me, so much validation and self-worth is now not there in a way. So what is it that gives me, gives my life meaning? What is it? Is it just being a mom? But I'm more than just a mom. Like it's a really interesting thing for, as humans, related to the balancing. Like, I don't think you find like, aha, I am this and this. As the goalpost is constantly shifting, or the ladder, there is no ladder. I think who we are and our worth, finding that is constantly shifting. And I think, again, I heard something that really stuck with me of kind of the purpose, which you can apply to any of those things, is trying to find the best version of yourself, like that as a purpose, as far as like, a goal. Because, the best version of me as a mom, the best version of me as a casting director, the best version of me as a friend, as a father, as a director. So regardless of what hat you're wearing in that moment in time, the goal is, the overarching one is becoming the best version of me. Yeah. And so that, is a pretty, a yardstick that doesn't move as much, because you kind of always have that, whatever it is that you find yourself doing, you're changing diapers in the middle of the night, or you're, hanging off the side of a 40-story building, like whatever it is you're doing,
those two are usually very far apart outside of your situation, but
usually, but not for my wife. So then, you go, okay, whatever situation I find myself in, let's be the best version of me in that moment. And I think that can have a grounding effect. It's very difficult to arrive at that, or at least to fully embody that. But it's an interesting, goalpost to have in mind.
Yeah. Yeah. We had Sarah Shahi on a couple episodes ago, and we kind of talked about like this evolution of your individual person, of like, you can go through these chapters of life, and instead of just thinking you're going to be the same human your entire life, you constantly evolve and change, and you work towards being whatever chapter in your life you're at. Then that's what you focus on. And then, to understand that that's not going to last forever. You can't get to that ultimate happiness and just be happy.
Right.
That's not how life is made, So you just you work with what you have. And the more you acknowledge that you're in this constant shifting world, and you just work towards whatever happiness you can find in that moment, is really kind of maybe a better way to function in life.
Very well said.
Yeah. Anyway, on that note,
we're getting very deep here.
Yeah.
So good.
Speaking of the future, though, I don't know if you can talk about it. And if you can't, you can tell me, and I won't ask. But so, do you have stuff coming up in the future that you're excited about that you can talk about?
Yeah. We've got. It's challenging to say with 100% certainty that it's going to happen because of the situation in Hollywood. But the most recent thing that I've been working on is a TV show project for Apple called The Last Frontier. It's kind of written by John Bokenkamp.
Isn't Jason Clarke attached to that?
He is,
right?
yeah. Jason Clarke is attached to star. And then we were in the process of casting when the strikes hit, and we had to, kind of abandon ship. So everything's on hold, but we're...
You've had a lot of that, because obviously Ari Costa is a dear friend, and I've cast his feature debut, but I remember when we were working on his film, you guys had like paused and all the COVID stuff in Prague, and it's a lot of like start and stop for you these days.
I haven't had a lot of, even the first movie, there was it's a lot of challenges with making movies is hard. It's a heck of a process. You got a lot of different artists, a lot of push in one direction, pull in the other. It's art and commerce. You've got, so many moving parts. But particularly in the last 3 or 4 years, it's been a very challenging time with COVID, and now with the strikes. It's a very unique moment in our history.
Yeah, and it's not even just like the production of like the prep, the production, but it's the wrap up of the film, the press, like all of that stuff is just it's a little bit of a roller coaster for you.
Oh yeah, it's very much a roller coaster. It's like
Yeah.
riding a wave. Yes, it's surfing, man. I just thankful that my head's above water every time it is.
Yeah. So is there going to be an Extraction 3?
There will be in some form for sure. Like, right now the hard part is with, all of the writers it's on strike. So it's hard to do a lot of chatting on what that next story will be, but it has been confirmed with Netflix and with AGBO. There will be a third one. And we're just discussing, my level of involvement and what's the story. And, it's all base level stuff. But it's exciting. People have responded very positively to the first two films. And so the idea of continuing the saga of Tyler Rake is very exciting.
Yeah. I was very sad that Adam Besa didn't make
it. I know.
Spoiler alert. No.
Hey, if you haven't watched the second movie by now, shame on you. Go.
Okay. I mean, I have, but somebody else might not have.
And that's who I'm talking to. The other person who hasn't. Get up there and watch the movie. Come on. How you have to.
Yeah, I got to meet him when I was working with Ari and Aaron on All Fun and Games, and I just met him on a virtual general, and he was like the most delightful, most grounded person. You just wait for good opportunities. I'm hopeful that it's that's the experience.
Yeah, he's great. He's super talented, super down to earth, very caring, very giving actor. I mean, he's won awards. Like the guy's got his star is on the rise for sure.
Absolutely.
And it was unfortunate that his character had to experience what he did in our movie. So,
well, you've already said he died.
Okay, yes, dies. Wah. But it was one of those things where we thought long and hard about it. It's for the and it's great, and those characters are great, and and their purpose in the storyline is to help emotionally ground and push Tyler Rake forward. And so we're like, oh, what is a gut punch to us, to the audience, that people are going to go, oh, and is going to have an impact. And it was because people love him. It's like, oh, well, let's have our one of our heroes go down, and that will catapult us into the third act.
Yeah. Well, it was lovely. I also have to say that I think that you found every possible way to kill somebody in the second one. Like the things that you don't think would ever be involved in a way for someone to go down were used in the second one.
Well, that was one of our, one of the marching orders for the stunt team was like, let's try to come up with as many different ways of unique ways of offing the bad guys as possible. And the crazy part is as these movies go on, we got to keep coming up with new ways. So we just keep raising the bar for ourselves, which is both exciting and daunting.
Wow. Well, mission accomplished for sure. I was like, what did he just use? Oh my goodness.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's amazing. Is there somebody out there that like you would just die to work with? Like who's your
as an actor or just as anybody?
Yeah. As an actor or anybody, I guess. I was thinking actor, but
let's stay focused on the casting side of things. As an actor, I mean, my gosh, the hard part is I've been fortunate to work with some pretty amazing people, not necessarily as a director all the time, but as a stunt performer and stunt coordinator. It was, a laundry list of people. I would love Jackie Chan's on the list. Interestingly, and this might be, controversial in some ways, but Tom Cruise, I think would be interesting to work with, to see, because everyone I've spoken to speaks about his professionalism and intensity and enthusiasm and positive energy, which, I try to exude. Now, I don't know if I'm on Tom Cruise's level, but I would love to experience that for myself and just see like, what is that level of like, Tom Cruise-ness. I'd be curious to experience that.
I have to tell you, I've had a good experience. So I used to work on a lot of Bad Robot projects when I was an associate, and my first project was Super 8, and they were doing Super 8 at the same time they were doing Mission 4. Ooh. And so Tom would be there all the time. And so Super 8 was all like 11 and 12-year-old kids, and they would have meetings at our office all the time in our casting space. And I remember one day he would come in, so he would ride in on his motorcycle, and then he would have his security team come in big SUVs following him. So he would come into the garage, and he was delightful, super nice guy. and they were having a meeting in our casting space, and he left his glove in the room, one of his motorcycle gloves. And I was the assistant at the time. And so I was checking people in as the kids were coming in with their moms. And he literally comes into the front lobby where all of the moms are. And I thought there was going to be a stampede because these moms were like, where are we? What? Tom Cruise is standing right there. It was the most amazing thing that I've ever seen.
That's so good.
And he's so nice. And then I saw him like months later, and I got like a very brief introduction to him. But when I saw him, he like struck up conversation in the kitchen and was like, how you been? He remembered. So I like whatever controversy he's got with all the other things, he seems like a very nice, grounded person, the way that he interacts with people. And I think that's very sort of telling.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I would want it to be, because I respect and admire him as an artist and all the work he's done and what he's done for cinema. You know, he's really been like just a huge advocate of the theatrical experience.
Well, he saved like the theaters.
He saved film.
With Top Gun Maverick, like that was it.
100%. I think he started the comeback, and I think, you know, the short answer is let's put Tom Cruise up there on top of the list. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Maybe you could get him to hang on the side of an airplane again.
I probably wouldn't have to. I'd have to come up with something even crazier for him to do, and I don't know how I could. You know, he's done so many crazy things.
And it's like you don't have to tell him to do anything. He's ready to do it. And my friend was rolling the behind the scenes stuff for the one that he was stuck to the airplane, and he's like, "I've never seen anything like this. This is the craziest."
Yeah.
And one of my sister's friends through my nephew's school, her name is Kimberly. I don't remember her last name, but she's married to Tom's stuntman.
Okay.
And she was Cameron Diaz's stunt person.
Yes.
And so that like you hear all this stuff and you're like, wow, like he's lovely to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Small role. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised he has a stuntman, honestly. Like he does it all
has
himself.
3.
Why does he need anybody?
Well, that's the great, kind of secret. And like Jackie Chan was similar in that they've all got, like, stuntmen are the ones who, what you don't see is that they're testing everything first. You know, they're the ones who like, it wasn't, Tom doesn't just rock up and hang onto the side of the plane and then go like, oh, okay. People are doing that behind the scenes, off camera, to make sure it's safe, to make sure nothing can go wrong. And that they're the ones who test out, is it possible? Is it safe? And then when they say, yes, it is, then Tom steps in and does it and gets all the glory. So he had, many stuntmen that he has who are fantastic. You know, Tom, taking nothing away from Tom, he still has to do it.
Yeah.
And that's insane and incredible. And there's also times when, which is how Jackie Chan used stuntmen so brilliantly, is if you're not seeing the actor's face, like it's not Tom Cruise's face, or it's not the best angle, like in I think it was Mission 5, where there's the big sandstorm right before he climbs like the Burj Khalifa. I think there's a shot where they're running through the sand storm, and the car hits the Ethan Hunt's character, and that shot I believe was from behind, and it was in the sandstorm, hard to see. He was wearing a mask. No reason for that to be Tom Cruise. So now stuntman steps in, takes the hit, and then Tom Cruise takes the mask off. So he uses stunt people when appropriate. Like he's not a masochist. Yeah. he's a bit of a
but someone else is.
Yeah, he's a bit of a theatrical exhibitionist, being like, hey, look at me do that cool stuff, which is amazing, and that we get the benefit of that. But Chan was the same way. Like if the camera was behind him or was too far away that you see his face, he would like stunt double, because no reason for me to get injured doing something you're not going to see me do. So it's very, very smart use of stunt performers.
I also feel like to get insurance, they probably have to do all these test runs.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Yeah. For sure.
Was there anything you would ever not do that too dangerous that was asked of you?
No, it's partly, that's kind of a tough, not tough question. The answer is no, but it's rarely was I put in a situation where I would be asked to do something I wasn't able to do. Because usually, with stunts, you get like a really good stunt coordinator and action designer. They're going to hire the right people for the job. So very rarely would they be like, oh, Sam, you're really good at fights and falls. here, we're doing this crazy like skydiving sequence. You're up. And you're like, what? You know, they're going to be like, okay, this is what we need. Let's find the best people for it. And that's when you get the call. So very rarely do you just get thrown into a situation where you're like, oh man, I have no idea how to do this. And I'm not going to do it. So it's a lot of it is the kind of the setup.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Different question for you. With your background as a filmmaker, do you see yourself veering away from the action genre at all? Is there something else that you want to do that you haven't done yet as far as genre space?
No, that's another fantastic question. You're all on fire. The immediate answer, like gut answer, is yes. Like I would love to do a silent movie. I would love to do a comedy. And there's an interesting kind of business point of view, which is to, you know, when you're creating a product in the marketplace, you want to be, you know, build a brand that does that thing, like the best at that thing. And if you start to diversify too early, you can kind of lessen the impact in the space. So, you know, in that way, I think it would, and I've thought about this, and I get a lot of projects, and sometimes I do get a little, let's say sidetracked, but I go, ooh, shiny, like that would be fun. And then, but that's why you surround yourself with a good team who says like, hey, like what it is that we're known for, at least at this moment, is hard hitting, you know, realistic, creative action. That's very thrilling. Like we need to pursue that, like at least establish ourselves as the best at that. So that then, you know, once you get to a certain level where you go, oh, well, that's what this brand represents. Now you're secure in that space. And then you go, okay, now let's try my silent comedy, you know, and that when you've established yourself in the marketplace. So even though we've got 2, you know, big movies on Netflix, I feel like I've got a long way to go to kind of solidify myself in the action genre. So I'll still be collecting those projects. I'll still be, you know, trying to create and write and have those things ready and waiting. And I think the focus is on the next couple is to just see how far we can push the action genre creatively, emotionally. You know, what's the next evolution of that space that I can the point of view that I can bring to it that maybe hasn't been seen before.
Yeah. Well, you've done a beautiful job. Like the sequences in the first 2 films have been stunning, and like I know they're not effortless, but they look effortless.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, there's a lot going on there, but like just watching both films, you know, I watched like everybody else the first one in lockdown, and it was very engaging and very, you know, captivating in that way. And I think you've done a really wonderful job with that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so well, we're coming up to our hour, so we don't want to keep you, especially now that we know you have an 8-month-old.
Yes.
But we have one very, very important question that we ask all our guests. But we want to know that if the world was ending tomorrow and you could only have one cocktail or beverage to cheers the end of the world, what would it be?
Oh my gosh! If the world was ending tomorrow, I would probably have a Lafroig 18-year single malt Scotch.
Oh.
Yes, this is one of my favorite brands of Scotch. You said it, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
yes, that's so good.
A smoky sip of a campfire in your mouth of just sit there and enjoy it and be like, all right, end of the world. Well, we're gonna enjoy the heck out of it. Yep.
Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Really wonderful.
Great. Yeah. Well, I really do appreciate it. I love what y'all are doing. Keep it up. And, you know, hopefully we move forward through all of these strikes, that we will come out on the other side stronger as an industry and ready to kick some butt.
Yes.
From your mouth.
Yes. Put it out there in the universe. It is now free. Let it be so.
It'll happen, guys. It'll happen. I believe it.
Awesome. Well, as per our usual, cheers.
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 Thanks so much.
Thanks.